All to the 2021 Town Aware Meet the Candidates Night. We're going to be obviously meeting remotely via our Zoom platform. And so I have some just some announcements I want to make about the platform and sort of rules of engagement around the platform, just because it makes it easier and more efficient for all of us. So there are two ways to submit questions when we get to that portion of the evening. You can type them into either the Q&A or the chat feature on your computer. I'm hoping that it looks like we only have the chat feature. Naomi, am I correct on that?
That's all I see on mine as well, yes.
Okay, so you can use, that makes it a little simpler. You can use the chat feature on the app to be able to ask a question, and I'll read it in, or Naomi will read it in, depending. I ask that if you're not speaking or called on to speak, that you can mute. My dog has a tendency to bark sometimes, and so I'm hoping that she'll behave, but I'm sure we've all at this point had the experience of hearing vacuum cleaners and hand mixers and all the like behind a meeting. So it makes it difficult for people to hear. So if you could just mute while you're not speaking, that would be helpful. This is, even though we've been in COVID for some time, this is the first Meet the Candidates Night that I've ever done on a Zoom platform. So I'm going to ask you to have some patience with me. I've once heard it likened to a seance. There's a lot of, are you there, Steve? Can you see me, Eileen? That occurs when you're on this platform. And so if we could all be patient with one another as we make it through and we're having our discussion. In terms of just being patient, it's a part of, I have a tendency to ask people to remain respectful and civil when we have discussions. I think people can get passionate about ideas, and being passionate about ideas is great. Being negative towards people or being inappropriate around other people's character, I think is where that runs right off the track for me. And so I will stop it if I feel like it's negative. I don't necessarily see that as being an issue tonight, but I always put that out there just in case. Our format is that we're going to begin this evening with the candidates for the Board of Fire Awards. We have two candidates, and the way that tonight will work is I will introduce each candidate and then ask them to take a moment, give you up to 3 minutes each to introduce yourselves to this group of people and to the people who will be watching it at home. You can take about 3 minutes to do that. Then there'll be a question and answer period. I'll ask you questions. You'll each have 2 minutes to respond to that question. We'll then open it up to public questions, and those questions can be asked through me, again, by using that chat feature. And then again, you'll have 2 minutes to answer questions that come in from our audience. And then you will have 3 minutes at the end for any closing remarks each of you want to make. And so I'll remind you of those time limits because we went 3-2, 3-2. We start with 3, the middles are 2s, and the end is a 3, if that helps you out in any way. And so with that, I'm going to take a moment and ask candidate, let's see here. First candidate is Mr. Samuel Small. Could you please take 3 minutes to introduce yourself to this group and tell us a little bit about your candidacy?
Okay, can you hear me? All right, this standard answer. So let me make sure I don't go over here. So basically, I grew up in Colorado in a small rural town. We had a little cattle ranch. My folks had that, and it was a coal mining town, agricultural. I met my wife, and she lived here. She was a native, so that's why I moved here. I've lived here now for about 9 years, and we bought a house in Ware 8 years ago. We've had 2 children. and they both go to Center Woods, they're 6 and 8. And so I really like the town. Let's see, I have my background was growing up. I helped around the farm, obviously, but also I started a construction business, and that's what I was doing for the past, before I moved here. And now I work as a machinist at a research company in Manchester. So I'm running basically because I just want to be involved in the community more and just to contribute really to the community and be of service if I can. I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell. I'm hoping maybe people have more questions if they want to know more about kind of maybe where I stand on certain topics. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Small. And with that, our next candidate, I'll introduce Steve. If you'd like to take 3 minutes and introduce yourself to the town and talk
Sure.
a little bit about your candidacy.
Can you hear me okay? All right. My wife and I moved to Ware and our family 22 years ago. I grew up in a small town just north of here and was working in Goffstown at the time. So we bought our house, and I joined the volunteer fire department where I grew up when I was 17, just out of high school. Did that for 2 years and then had the opportunity to work there full time. So I've been full time in the fire service for almost 30 years, now retired, but I've been pretty much involved in some aspect of either volunteer call, full time. I served on the board here at Ware for 9 years, starting in, I believe it was 2009 or 10. There was a time back around then that the department was struggling to get people, keep people, was struggling to get out for calls. And with my experience being on many different departments and working with many departments through mutual aid and training and so forth, that I could help with some of the problems that we were experiencing. So we were able to work through that. We developed a plan. We hired our first part-time fire chief. Before that, it was an on-call fire chief. And I was on the committee that helped choose our fire chief. I also served on the highway garage building committee, the public committee that we had before that was approved in 2016. And I also served on the capital improvement program committee for, I believe, about the last 3 years. So I have my wife of 38 years. I have 2 daughters. They're both married, and one has 2 grandchildren. I went to the Community Technical College in Laconia. I have 2 associate's degrees. One is in internal combustion engines, and one is in fire science. I'm also a certified level 3 firefighter. I was an EMT for from 1980 to 2015. I have several other certifications, but I know the fire service well. I wanted to help the town and the fire department to be able to it was struggling, and I wanted to help it get through some of the issues that they were having. And so I haven't been on for the board for a couple of years, but I would like to get back on and be able to be a help there. So that's why I'm running.
Thank you. And again, that's Steve Roberts, the other candidate for Board of Fire Awards. And that sound was the 3-minute bell. So you were just under the wire, Steve. So thank you. So I have a series of questions for you. And when I ask a question, I'll pick one of you to begin. We'll go back and forth so that it's not the same person every time answering the question first. So the first question I have is, what is your motivation to run? And Mr. Small, if you'd like to begin, what is your motivation to run for Board of Fire Awards?
So basically, my motivation is that I wanted just to be more, participate more in the community and and be more engaged, I guess, and help the community where I can. And that was my motivation. I do have, before I moved here, I was going to school. Gosh, I guess it's been a long time ago now. But I was going to school to get my bachelor's degree in nursing, and I have my EMT basic. So I have had some experience with around, I guess, the fire department, and I've always appreciated what they do and the services they offer. I don't nearly have the experience that Steve has, which is impressive, but I just wanted to be involved more in the community, especially now that I have kids. And that was really my only motivation.
Thank you. Steve, what's your answer for your motivation to run for the Board of Fire Wards?
Like I previously said, I had been on for 9 years, and I was off for the last 2 years. I missed being on the board and being involved in that. But also I want to make sure that the town and the fire department continue to grow the way that they need to as times change, in the coming years. And so that's my motivation for running again.
Okay, thank you. Steve, I'm going to start with you to answer this next question. How would your background enhance the Board of Fire Wards and their role in the fire rescue department?
Well, firefighting has evolved into basically problem solving. Fires are sometimes the problem, emergency medical, sometimes the problem, hazardous materials, other things, different calls, but people generally call the fire department when they don't know what to do and that they can't handle whatever is going on. And so it's our job as firefighters to find out what that problem is and fix it. And so that's what I bring to the table, is knowing a lot of the situations that we run into, but also being able to look for ways to improve things and to solve problems.
Thank you. Sam, do you want to take the same question? Is how does your background enhance the Board of Fire Wards and their role in the fire rescue department?
I would say that I do have a background, because I've owned a construction company for 10 years. And so I'm familiar with solving problems, as well as currently what I do now. I think that it's good to bring a fresh perspective, maybe. Obviously, I don't have the background that Steve does, but I'm open to ideas. And as far as a fire ward, I guess I would like to learn more about how to, what's needed in that area. So yeah, without that background of actually working in a fire department, I don't really know what else to say about that.
Well, thank you. And so I'll begin this next question with you again, Sam. There have been discussions in the past about dissolving the Board of Fire Wards and having the fire department run under the Board of Selectmen. What are your thoughts on that?
I've heard about this and I've read a little bit about it. I guess I could see both sides of the argument, but I think currently in Ware, with how things are, it seems to work well, especially maybe for someone like myself who's new and wants an opportunity to get more involved, or somebody like Steve who has lots of experience, I think is very valuable too. So I think in the situation here, I think it's a good situation that's working. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Steve, the same question. As you know, there have been discussions in the past about moving the responsibilities and the management for the Board of Fire Wards under the Ware Board of Selectmen. What are your thoughts on that?
Excuse me, I believe that it should remain as is with the Board of Fire Wardens at this time. Certainly things could change in the future, but for right now, the boards that I have seen work very well together. It's been a lot of work, especially in the last 10 years. And we've done a lot of things that frankly, the selectmen, I don't believe would have time to do. We shored up, we hired the fire chief. We started a per diem program to get coverage in the station for the daytime, and that program has grown over the last 10 years. We revamped the ambulance billing policy, and we reviewed ambulance, all the aspects of that, which is quite complicated. That took several years. And we also, the fire wardens do driveway permits, et cetera. So I think time-wise, the people that are elected as fire wards can concentrate on just the fire department, where the selectmen have many departments that they have to be involved in. So I think that it definitely works well. And I think that issues are handled well in that group that just concentrates on that one department.
Thank you. Steve, I'm going to be sticking with you for the next question. In your words, what do you feel is the role of the Board of Fire Wards?
So, in where the role of the Board of Fire Wardens is outlined in the establishment of the board, I believe it was either in 1977 or 78, and it outlined what the responsibilities were that the town voted in the fire wards, and this is your job, basically. So where the board is elected, we aren't hired as employees. There is, some of the political end of it definitely is, I believe, the job of the fire wardens to take care of the things that not so the employees of the fire department can do their job, and the board can handle some of those issues. But specifically, it oversees one of the big issues that we had was the financial issues. So the board oversees from that original vote the financial affairs of the fire department, and also the fire wards sets policies for the fire department as well, and then manages that.
Thank you. Sam, the same question. What do you see as the role of the Board of Fire Wards?
All right. So I guess I would kind of mirror Steve's thoughts. It seems like a good stopgap in between the selectmen. That way, like he said, a lot of they're free to do other things. Plus, I did read quite a bit of the minutes, which are very brief, of the fire ward, and it does seem like a lot of what they do is okay expenses, and so it just seems like a good way to, I guess, keep things efficient for the town. And I think that's kind of a good rule, because efficiency obviously is going to create more time for other people, and you do have an ability to look at budgets maybe a little more closely. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Sam, I'm going to be staying with you. This is my last question for you tonight. There may be some from the room, and we'll be hoping that people will type theirs into chat. But my last question for you is, we're in the third year of a 4-year plan to bring full-time firefighting and EMT staffing to the fire department. Do you agree with this plan? And if so, why?
That is a good question. I've looked at it a little bit. Full-time EMT would be valuable, I think especially as the community grows, because there's a need, and as like all things, though, of course, it's going to cost money. So that's something that before I can really say one way or the other, I just really probably should do more research and kind of get more information.
Okay, thank you. And Steve, the same question. In year 3 of 4 of a plan to bring on full-time firefighting and EMT staff to the department, do you agree with the plan? And if yes, why?
Yes, I do agree with the plan. Basically, Ware is large enough town and busy enough call volume that it needs to have at least 2 people in the station 24 hours a day. And that was one of the issues that we ran into some 10 years ago, was that the call volume was getting, and the workload was getting too much for the on-call or the people that volunteer to be on call. And the system was collapsing, and that typically happens in every department that starts out that doesn't transition until a lot of departments, frankly, don't transition into some type of coverage until in the station. When I'm talking about coverage, I mean in the station, until they're forced into it. You know, there's a problem. Things aren't, the trucks aren't getting out, the ambulance not getting out. So the best, most efficient way to take care of that is to, and what we did here in Ware was we started with a per diem from 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then we moved into adding coverage on weekends and then adding coverage to later in the day. But there's issues with that because the people that work per diem generally work another job, so we can't make them come to work. If they get their own job calls them in or other things, they say, sorry, I can't work. And we don't have a commitment to them as far as when they work and everything, so they don't have that much commitment to us. And also a commitment of having full-time employees that are committed to us. There's a lot of benefits of that as well. So that gets basically the first truck or the ambulance out the door, which is also very important, because if you have to, if you call 911, you know, seconds count sometimes, and you are waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, what seems like forever sometimes. And so when people are at home or at their job and now they have to travel, get in their car, travel to the station, get the vehicle out, whereas when you have coverage in the station, they're on the road very quickly, headed to that call. So that reduces the response time. So they also participate in inspections, station maintenance, you know, do the training on duty, etc. So there's a lot of benefits to having that, and so I firmly support it.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, those are my formal questions. I open it up for anyone in the audience if they'd like to ask a question in the chat. Either myself or Naomi can ask our 2 candidates for Board of Fire Awards those questions. And so if you choose to write a question, I'll be asking that question to both candidates. We make sure that we're an equal opportunity ask and make sure that we get full answers across the board. But I am not seeing any questions in chat. Are you, Naomi? Are you seeing anything? Okay. So with that, I'm going to offer each candidate the opportunity to give closing statements. I started this evening with Sam, and so I'm going to end starting with Steve. So Steve, you have your 3 minutes to give closing remarks.
Thank you. I want to thank Sam for putting his hat in the ring. Can't wait to meet you in person, and happy to have you in this contest. Thank you for putting your name in. It encourages me because I don't believe there's enough people participating in these type of activities for the town and for the community. It's important for people to be involved and for people to take on these roles. And so I appreciate him doing that. I just want to say thank you for participating tonight in the meeting. And I don't know how many people that are listening or watching know me already, probably several do. So I won't bore you with a lot of time here. But I ask for your vote, and we'll see what happens on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. And now, Sam, you have the floor for 3 minutes for closing remarks.
All right, thanks, Steve. That was very generous. I appreciate that. And that was kind of one of the reasons why I decided to throw my hat in the ring, because, yeah, like Steve said, I think more people should try to participate locally in their communities. I'm trying to do it myself. So yeah, basically I am just trying to be of service in whatever way I can. You know, Steve, he seems like a great resource. And so either way, I'm sure things will work out, but yeah, if you want, you can vote for me. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both very much. So with that, we are going to be moving on this evening to discuss some questions and answers with the candidates for the Ware Board of Selectmen. We have 3 candidates. The first candidate is Sherry Burdick. Our second candidate is Ricky Hippler. And our third candidate is Mark Nelson. And I believe you're all here, so welcome. And without further ado, I'm going to ask each of you to take 3 minutes, same format, and just introduce yourself to the attendees and talk a little bit about your candidacy. And I will begin with Sherry. So the floor is yours, Sherry, for 3 minutes.
All right. So I'm a lifelong resident of Ware. I've been involved with the town for probably the last 20 years. I'm currently the president of the Historical Society. I was on the building committee for 5 years, and now I've been a selectman. I'm also involved in church, and I also do a volunteer work for a draft house rescue in New Hampshire. I have 3 children that were raised in Ware. And I was brought up on a farm, about 40 head of cattle. And then after I was married, we raised beef, 25 beef animals, and did a lot of custom logging for people with draft horses because I didn't want the skidders in. So yeah, I think it's important to give back to your town. And so that's why I'm doing this.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Next up, Ricky, if you'd like to take 3 minutes and just introduce yourself and your candidacy.
Well, thank you. I'm kind of excited to be here. This is, again, a first for me at the Zoom Candidates Night. I'll be seeking my 3rd term as a selectman. I've served as the chairman for a couple of years. I'm currently the vice chairman, done that a couple of years. Lifelong resident. Been here all 35 years of my life. Well, 35 in July. 17 years on the Ware Fire Department. Worked my way up through the ranks, and I'm a captain there. Reason I'm running again is, just like to give back to my community, be very involved. Obviously, this town has gone through some hard times. I don't want to be in the negative media anymore. I like being part of the solution and making sure that when we're in the media, we're in there for good reasons, which I feel that we have been in the past few years. We've got a good, strong employee base. We've got a good police department, highway department, fire department, and all the other town employees at the town offices and all the volunteers. And I just want to continue, what I started out 6 years ago now, wanting to accomplish, which was, again, just making Ware the best town it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. And last but not least, Mark, if you'd like to take 3 minutes and introduce yourself and your candidacy.
Sure, thank you. Mark Nelson, been in Ware, we're going on 12 years now. 2 daughters that have gone through the whole Ware system. I found with my career and family life, now that my girls are older and don't want to spend as much time with me, that I wanted to give some time back to the town. And I thought that by running for selectman would be a good idea. I've had a lot of people ask me why, and it always seemed the standard answer was lower taxes, better pay for employees. But while I was making dinner tonight, thinking about a little bit further why I actually wanted to, when I get older and look back, I want to know that I gave back to the community and helped to grow the town and didn't just sit on the sidelines. And being a selectman will also consume a little bit of time, so I won't have to work as much on this old farmhouse at the top of Flanders. And that's about it.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And so with that, I'll begin our formal questions. And so my first question is as follows. What experience or skills have prepared you to serve as selectman? And Ricky, I'll let you start us off.
Again, I would think probably the 6 years I've been on the board. You know, I get on, I think I was told I was one of the youngest ones ever to get on the board of selectmen. They wanted to make sure that I was in it for the right reasons, which I thought I was. Again, I wanted to bring a younger sense of input to the board and also a perspective as a town employee. Again, being on the fire department, seeing what goes on, boots on the ground, working hand in hand with the DPW and the police department, and knowing, you know, the struggles that we have on our side as employees, and also the struggles that may face the town and the taxpayers. So again, I think that my 6 years on, and some of it again as chair and vice chair, would definitely assist me in continuing forward.
Thank you. Mark, what experiences or skills have prepared you to serve as selectman?
So as far as highway department, I've been in construction my whole life, no matter what aspect of it is. Keeping the financials on projects from completion to end, budgets, a lot of contractual agreements, making sure we stick to contracts, trying to find loopholes in contracts. And my work takes me all over New Hampshire and sometimes other states, working specifically with cities and municipalities. So it gives me a good overview of what other municipalities, cities, and towns are doing that may be applied to what we do here in Ware.
Thank you. And Sherry, same question.
Well, I've served for 3 years now, and it was you know, it's different than when you work out you know, for the you know, in your work. But I have a strong engineering background and management background. With the last position was 1,200 indirect reports. I took care of $1 million budgets on a weekly basis, ran timelines weekly, did a lot of stuff with safety. I just think there's a lot of aspects that all covers that helps you with keeping all the issues in focus. So it's a good group of people that are on in the selectmen's seats now, and it seems to work good. And so I just think it's a great cause, and I would like to continue to do that.
Thank you. Okay, first one down, second one in. A total of 5 employees were given raises and the public was not notified. The finance director, a director of public works, the police chief, and 2 police officers, not including the promotion of 1 officer. How transparent should the select board be when giving raises to employees? And Sherry, I will start with you.
Well, I think that in some cases, we need to give these people a raise, and if we don't, we're going to lose good employees. And some of these people, even with the raises, continue to be probably in my eyes, are being underpaid for what they're doing. So, you know, we can wait and push it out another year, but the money was available at the time. And I think as a board, we all felt that we needed to do something before we lost a good employee. And we've had a big turnover with the police department, and we've lost people that we could have used for good jobs. So I just think sometimes you have to look at the picture and do it. I mean, you know, not wait for another year to go by. So.
Thank you. Mark, same question, and I'll repeat it if you'd like me to. A total of 5 employees were given raises and the public was not notified. The finance director, director of public works, police chief, and 2 police officers, not including the promotion of 1 officer. How transparent should the select board be when giving raises to employees?
So I'm not totally familiar with the reasons, other than I will definitely agree that most, if not all, town employees are underpaid compared to other towns. As far as the actual transparency issue, I think it should be completely transparent. If it has to be done, I can understand the reason of doing it so that you don't lose employees, but it should be completely transparent, whether it's listed on the website or whatever legal means we can. I don't want to get too deep into it, but as far as transparency, taxpayers pay them. It should be transparent.
Thank you. And Ricky, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm all set. Again, I agree with Sherry, and obviously I'm a sitting member of the board, so her and I also have that inside knowledge, I'll say. But again, it's 5 members of the board, and it's not just one member saying yes, let's give the raise. But it goes back to retainment. When you have good employees, whether it be public sector or private sector, you want to retain these employees. And that's where it comes back to is like Sherry and Mark have both said, is a lot of the employees are underpaid to begin with. When you have a good employee, you want to retain them and keep them. So again, I am a huge proponent of the purchasing policy, which is spending on day-to-day items, as my track record will show. But again, when it comes to employees, I think sometimes that decisions have to be made kind of spur of the moment, I'll say, that will, like I said, retain the good help that we have in this town. And all those listed in those 5 are, obviously, and everybody else is good help, and we need to retain them.
Okay, thank you. Question number 3. Given the economic hardship faced by many citizens due to the pandemic and a likely reduction in revenue, if you're a select person, what consideration was given to the taxpayer in preparing the warrant? And if you're running for a select person, what would you have done, if anything, to develop a warrant based on financial hardship of our citizens and a likely reduction in revenues? And so I will begin with Ricky.
So when we set the tax rate in the fall, I was a proponent not to give back as much as some of my constituents. Now, with that said, the reason I was thinking that is because of financial hardship coming, and I wanted to make sure that the town was protected. I feel that it's going to that the economic hardship is going to affect us, no matter how you look at it, individuals and townwide. But I also think that it should be up to the voters to decide. We have very competent department heads in place that have brought forth what they think they need or know they need for their departments to manage and meet the town's needs. And I think it's up to the voters at that point to put it in, again, put it on the warrant and let them decide. So that would be my answer, is that, let's bring it forth to the voters. They know where they're at as far as their economic status. And they can decide whether they want, say it's a new plow truck, or they don't. And I think that's the best we can do.
Okay, thank you. Sherry, same question. Given the economic hardship faced by many citizens due to the pandemic and a likely reduction in revenue, As select person, what consideration was given to the taxpayer in preparing the warrant?
Well, I think we've done this for several years, really. We have asked the department heads to cut everything they absolutely can cut. So, as Ricky said, when the people come to vote, if they feel that they can't afford 2 or 3 of the items that are being voted on, they need to vote no, obviously. But we have really cut corners for a long time, and I think the departments are running very, very tight now. I don't think there's a whole lot of slack there that or overrun that we can take out. So I think that, you know, as Ricky said, you know, if we need a plow truck, you need a plow truck. You know, if you need a vehicle for the police department, we need one. And I think we didn't have any cars bought last year for the police department. There was nothing voted in for that. And we've had 2 or 3 years now with plow trucks, but they went 6 years without any. So we're kind of in a bind still. So I think it's up to the voters. We're just going to have to wait, but we've tried to keep things as low as for taxes as possible.
Thank you. And Mark, I'll read it again because I think it's a lengthy question. Given the economic hardship faced by many citizens due to the pandemic and likely reduction in revenue, if you were to become a select person, what consideration would you give to the financial hardship when preparing the warrant?
So I would have to agree that it's up to the taxpayers. That's one of the reasons the warrants are there. In preparing them, it's a tough juggle. You can make cuts and cuts and cuts, but then you get into the position where we were a few years ago, and now you're trying to catch up, and then the economic impact becomes even harder on everyone at that point. So it's really a tight rope. People may not think they're necessities, but if we don't have plow trucks that run, or we have one mechanic trying to fix 4 trucks in the middle of a snowstorm and people can't safely get around town, that's also an economic impact that has to be taken into consideration. And this year, kudos to the select board. I was actually pleasantly surprised with the warrant articles this year.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, I'm going to stick with you for answering the next question first. So, as a selectman, what would you like to see accomplished during your term?
I would just like to be part of keeping the town financially responsible, good community health, and try and keep the town as a community as we are. It's one of the reasons that we moved here and brought our children up here. And I'd like to continue that for the younger generation to be able to bring their children up in this community.
Yeah. Ricky, same question, but I'm going to twist it a little bit as an incumbent.
Oh, no.
So what are the goals or expectations you'd like to see in your term? And can you share with everyone the goals you have accomplished already during your terms?
So when I first got on, the police department was kind of in turmoil, and there was a lot of turmoil. That's the best word I'll use. And I wanted to see us come through that. And I was very happy to be a part of getting the police department back on track. We have some great officers and a very good chief, who I was a part of the process of hiring. I'm proud to say that I was. Same with some of I'll go with the DPW garage. They were in a building that needed to be updated for years. We kept going forward with it and making sure that it was on the warrant in front of the taxpayers. And finally, the taxpayers agreed that they needed a new building. And what we have down there now is excellent. Happy employees will stay as well. So some of the hires that we've made in my tenure, again, very quality employees that we have. Moving forward, I'd like to just carry on exactly, what we've been doing for the last few years as far as, retainment of our employees, keeping the tax rate as low as possible without sacrificing town services. That's huge to me is keeping the services at a level that has come to be expected of the town for the best dollar, obviously. I'm a taxpayer in this town, just like everybody else here. And again, I don't want to see my taxes go up either. But I know that, again, from my experience as boots on the ground in the fire department and working with the other departments and being a selectman, I can see both sides of the table. So it's I guess a little easier for me to juggle it, I'll say, when I know if it's like Sherry said, oh, there's not much fat in the budget. So just making sure that we keep the line tight, make sure we get the best bang for the buck on everything we purchase. And like I said, make the town, just make everybody proud to come back to their town when they come home at night.
Thank you, Ricky. And Sherry, same question. So
Well-
goals that you'd like to accomplish and what you feel like you've accomplished already in your prior term.
One thing that we've done, and Ricky touched on this, was the police department. We were in kind of tough shape, and we've got the police department kind of built back up now. Things seem to be going a lot smoother. We don't have the incidents that we were having 3 and 4 years, 5 years ago. So that's a positive thing. We put a bond in place, and we've repaired many of the roads in town. There's still more to do, but the infrastructure of our town is really the main thing that I felt needed to be taken care of, and that's been worked on. It's going to be continued to be worked on, along with the bridges as as the state comes on board to help with that. And also, right now, we've worked on buildings, but right now we have to do something for the town hall, which is on the National Register. We need to do some work on that to stabilize it. And as far as going forward, I'd like to see us to apply for some grants, keep the taxes as low as possible. I'm happy to work with the board, the select board as a whole, and also Naomi, and try to save taxes and get some grants in place, and matching grants or non-matching grants. And we can, if we need a new roof on a building, which right now that's not a problem, but as far as looking at insulation to cut heating costs, vapor barriers for moisture issues, whatever, I think maybe that's someplace we need to look at some of the buildings here in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. I'm going to stay with you for this next question, so you can begin. And the question is, what are your thoughts on the current and the proposed budget?
Well, I think the current budget is good. I don't want to see us limit ourselves, but I don't want to see people end up losing homes either. So I think we have to let the people speak to that. I just think that there's, we do the best we can. Can we do any better than what's proposed? I don't know. It's tight. I mean, we're not talking $1 million. We're talking $140,000, $150,000. But that makes a difference for some people. If it's another 20 cents more on their tax rate, between that and the stuff they're going to be voting on. So I just think that, I think we've done a pretty good job, and we've been a default. We've gone through a lot of default budgets over the years. So I think, it's up to the taxpayers to decide whether they want to spend a little bit more or not.
Thank you, Sherry. And Mark, same question. What are your thoughts on the current and the proposed budget?
Actually, the current budget I thought was reasonable. The proposed budget, again, the taxpayers have to make the decision, but I'm firmly in belief of the rotation of equipment, cruisers. It gets to a point where they depreciate, you don't get any return on your investment and maintenance and downtime. So unfortunately, it's just some of the necessary expenses. I don't like my tax bill, I'm sure, any more than anybody else does, but it's the nature of the beast. But the voters will decide, but what was put forward, I think was reasonable.
Thank you. And Ricky, same question. Thoughts on the current and proposed budget?
You know, I've always had kind of the thought process that the default budget is last year's number, which obviously it is. And then the proposed reflects what you're doing and costs for the current year, where you're at now in the present, not in the past. You know, so if you bought a lawnmower at your house and you were paying somebody to mow your lawn, you wouldn't keep paying somebody to mow your lawn if you could do it yourself. So that's kind of my acronym is, you know, that was last year's budget. That satisfied last year, but this is a new year. This is the present, and this is what the department heads have come forward with and says this is what we need to operate and keep that level of service to the town that we see as needed. So I think both of them don't have, again, like Sherry and Mark have said, I don't think there's a lot of fat in either of them. I think there's some adjustments and adjustments for you know, the upping of the retirement contributions and the insurances and stuff like that. So that's in the budgets as well, and that's something that the selectmen can't really control. But again, it's reflected from a past number to the next number. Obviously, those numbers sometimes transfer over default, but again, to me, that's last year's budget. That represented what we needed last year, and the proposed represents what we need this year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ricky, I'm going to be staying with you for the next question. The next question is this. This week marks the 1-year anniversary of the first case of COVID-19 reported in the state of New Hampshire. What do you see as the next steps in supporting the town, the community, and your employees through the pandemic?
Again, as one of our employees, I think the town's done a very good job with providing you know, necessary PPE and equipment. And hats off to our department heads and department managers to you know, obtain all that stuff for our employees. The board as a whole has made recommendations and has closed down the town offices to appointment only. And obviously we've gone to this Zoom platform to try and keep everybody at a distance and safe in their own homes, and to protect our employees. They're our most valuable asset when it comes to the offices. And we like I said, we need to continue to do that. Currently the board has gone month to month asking whether we keep the town hall closed, town offices closed, or we reopen it. But again, I think that our interest is for obviously the public and our employees to keep them safe and provide the necessary equipment. And when we have to shut the building down, that's what we do. But you know, moving forward, I think it's kind of I don't think anybody really has a master plan. It kind of goes on recommendations from the state and you know, the federal government, and we kind of just react as we see fit for the time. May that change soon? It could, but as it is now, we just take the recommendations as they come and we try and interpret them the best we can for the town and the employees.
Okay, thank you. Mark, same question. What do you see as the next steps in supporting the town and the employees moving through the pandemic?
Well, the next steps would be to follow the COVID guidelines. And as someone that had an entire house that went through it, I would not wish that on anyone. It should be first and foremost to protect our employees and the health of our entire community. Even though I went through it and I never want to go through that again. I still wear my mask. I don't like wearing a mask more than anybody else does. But it's a short-term pain for long-term gain. We don't want to lose anybody, and we don't want people to be sick, and we just need to follow the state guidelines as put forth.
Okay, thank you. And Sherry, same question to you.
Yeah, I think that the selectmen have really, as a group, we've followed the guidelines. We've got personal protective equipment. We've rotated people in and out of the building. We've shut the building down. And I said all of those things. I think that in the future, I think, you know, I don't know in the next month or two, but I think as we get into the next level and they get into the younger people and they're given shots and stuff, that hopefully by summer, we can have everything opened up again. Hopefully, if not summer, fall. And still we need to follow the guidelines, which will still be to wear a mask. Even after you have your shots and you've, you know, you're not probably going to get the virus bad, but you still need to protect yourself and everyone else. So for all the people that haven't gotten a shot come fall, you still need to do it. So I think we've done a good job, and I think we'll continue to follow whatever guidelines the state puts out.
Thank you. I want to thank the three of you. That's the end of my formal questions. I'm looking into the chat and I don't see any questions from the audience. So I'm going to give them a moment to see if anyone has any. But again, I don't see any coming in. And so at this point, I'm going to offer each of you, oh, there's one. Thank you. From Michael and Patricia, the question to all three of you, and I will start with Sherry. Any plans to expand the tax base in where?
I couldn't hear what you were saying. You were breaking up or somebody was talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. If everyone could just make sure that they are muted, other than Sherry, because that's who we're beginning with. So the question is, any plans to expand the tax base and where beyond the homeowners?
We're always looking for small businesses to come in.
Listen, can you hear that? Okay, I'd just like to listen to Sherry.
Frank, you need to mute yourself. I think that's
I
Frank.
thought I did. It says mute.
You might want to try clicking that little box. Because there you go. Perfect. Thank you, Frank. So Sherry, I'm going to ask you the question again. Any plans to expand the tax base and where beyond the homeowners?
I think that, you know, we're happy as a group, as a select board, to have people come in with businesses. I know that a few years ago, I actually came to the board and spoke, and it's been a few years now, with a company that was willing to come in and set up down in the down off Gould Road, and that didn't happen because at that time they didn't. I guess the selectmen didn't want that happening. But I think at this point we need to be looking for other businesses to come into town, and so it helps alleviate some of the taxes that the taxpayers have to pay. And without going out and surveying, I mean, I know that Market Basket was thinking about coming to Ware at one point. You know, I just think we need a larger business to come in to help us with this. And I don't know what all the answers are, but I think that that's something that would be a good idea to continue to look at and see if there's anything there available. As far as I know, no one has approached the town with any, you know, medium-sized business.
Thank you. Ricky, same question. Any plans to expand the tax base and where beyond the homeowners?
I would agree with Sherry that we're kind of a bedroom community, and I think that the board has done well with, you know, any businesses that have come forward, which I don't know of any personally in my tenure. And the ones that I have seen try and go in usually face a lot of, I don't want to say problems, but roadblocks, in town. I'm for business, to reduce the tax rate 100%. But I think a lot of it, if it made it to our level as a board member, I would support it, absolutely.
Okay, and finally, Mark, same question.
Short and sweet. Any business to reduce the tax rate, I'm all for it.
Any other questions from the attendees? Okay, seeing none. Mark, I believe you were the last person to speak at the beginning, so you're going to be the first person to give us your closing remarks. You have 3 minutes.
I want to thank everyone on the Zoom call tonight. I wish more people would do it. I hope to get your vote. I'd like to thank the 2 selectmen that are here on the call for their service. Hopefully one of your services will be cut short, but I don't wish ill of anyone. And in closing, to Helene Kirk, I appreciated your phone call and your advice, and I want you to know that I took it to heart, and thank you.
Okay, Sherry, you're up next. 3 minutes in closing.
Well, I've enjoyed being a selectman the last 3 years, and I hope that I continue. I want to see the roads, the infrastructure continue to be worked on, and the buildings that need work, and want to try to keep the taxes as low as possible without causing an issue. So if we cut something to try to save $100,000, and 2 years later it costs us twice as much, I think we have to look at that and look and forecast stuff out, so we're not doing that. So yeah, I think it's been great. We have some good department heads and a good group of people to work with, and I thank everyone that voted for me before. Hope they vote again, and good luck to Mark and to Ricky.
Thank you, Sherry. And last but not least, Ricky, your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank you, like Mark said, I want to thank everybody that came out tonight for the Zoom meeting. Again, a little different platform, but I think it's very effective. Again, as a current sitting member, I appreciate Mark's interest, but no disrespect. I hope I win. Yes, absolutely. I appreciate everybody's vote that voted for me for the last my last two terms. I hope to serve another term to the town. Again, it's not always about the tax dollar. There's a lot more that goes on with the selectmen, decisions that go on. For instance, we have this the Boston Post cane that we give to the oldest town resident, and it's really nice to be a part of those events. And see people and be a part of positive things in town. Once we get through this pandemic, I hope that we can, again, have face-to-face conversations and without masks. Obviously, like I said, I don't know when that's going to be, very far down the road, I'm sure. But again, having that public interaction, having that people interaction, and keeping our town, the town that I remember growing up, the place I wanted to be and the place I've put my roots in. So like I said, I appreciate everybody being here. Like I said, I hope everybody gets out and votes. Again, whether it's for or against, like I said, just please get out and vote. And again, thank you for all your time.
Okay, I'd like to thank all the candidates tonight. It was a wonderful and lively discussion. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the time of the attendees. I want to remind everybody that voting in Ware is on Tuesday, March 9th. I'll look forward to seeing you there. If there's anything or any questions that anyone has in advance of voting, you can reach out to either Naomi or myself at the town of Ware. And with that, I wish you all a good evening.